Welcome to the Big Idea podcast focused on food. My name's Andrew Ive. I'm the founder of Big Idea Ventures, and today we're going to be talking to Nicolas, the CEO of Gourmey, the most successful cell-based company in France today. If you have any questions or comments, please do post them in the usual places, and let's get on with the conversation. Thanks. Okay. Hey, Nicolas, how are you?
Hi, Andrew. I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Welcome to the Big Idea podcast, where we're focused on food. Obviously, as always, we're going to have a nice, very friendly conversation. And we're going to find out all about your company and all the great things you're doing. So why don't we just start with who you are and what your company does?
Sure. So I'm Nicolas. I'm a French entrepreneur based in Paris. And with Antoine and Victor, my two co-founders, we have started a company called Gourmey. We are a cultivated poultry company. That means that we are essentially producing real animal meat using cell cultivation technologies, which makes real meat both tasty and much more sustainable than conventionally produced meat. And the very first product that we are working on is a very French product. It's actually foie gras, which is a liver product, a duck foie gras. And we have made tremendous progress around the previous months, which also ended up in multiple tastings that we had with the press recently. And I'm not the one saying that the product is likely to be very good, but other people like chef or the press have said it recently. So it's a very nice moment for the company, where we are very proud of the progress and the trajectory.
So spell the company name for me, just and for everybody listening, so we get it right.
Sure. So it's Gourmey, Gourmey. The last letter is a Y and not a T.
So Gourmey, but the T has disappeared. It's gone. It's been cut out, and X, and it's now a Y. Gourmey.
Exactly.
And it's gourmey.com.
Yes, as simple as gourmey.com.
Okay. The reason I'm putting this out there up front is I want to make sure that if anyone is like, oh, let me go read a little bit about this company, they can immediately go and look at your website and so on. So you said you're focused on something very French, foie gras. I'm saying it as an Englishman rather than as a Frenchman. Why foie gras? I'm saying it horribly. Why foie gras?
Sure. So, well, there are many reasons that made this product a very, very nice and strong first product. The first reason is that it's a gastronomy product, and we really wanted to show that cultivated meat could really jump into gastronomy and really provide very refined, very sophisticated food experience, because food is about the pleasure that you get from, just eating and consuming something. And we wanted to show that it could go beyond sausages, beyond burgers, beyond nuggets or whatever, and really provide restaurant grade, gastronomy grade, chef grade experiences. So that was one of the first reasons why we decided, also as a French company, to start with this product, to kind of combine innovation and tradition, French gastronomy, with a huge level of innovation on the cell cultivation side, on the biotech side. So how we could show that innovation and tradition could work hand to hand. We believe that this product, which is very old, very renowned, very well appreciated by French people, obviously, but people all around the globe, could be a right match. The second aspect is also the sort of controversy that you have around this product, because many people are judging this product quite cruel because of the way it's produced. It's produced through a technique called force feeding, where actually animals are forced to consume important quantities of food. And this is why this product has been actually banned in many countries. The production is already banned in 17 countries as of now. And even the consumption has been banned also in some regions. For instance, in California, you cannot legally consume foie gras. The city of New York has decided the same. The UK is also considering a potential ban on this product. So we really believe that if we want this product to be consumed in the next decades to go, it will have to be reinvented to some extent. And that's really what we want to show.
So many countries and many cities are banning foie gras because of the force feeding aspect of its traditional production. Yes. But the reality is, people love the taste, people love the gastronomic experience of foie gras, and I guess Gourmet is going to be the first company, or already is the first company, that will give people the ability to consume it in a more ethical, sustainable way without the concern about banned products. Is that an accurate representation?
Yeah, perfectly accurate. And the core of our focus is actually to be able to scale our production platform like any cultivated meat companies, but it's also to be able to reach that taste parity. So really the two focuses that we have at Gourmet are, number one, taste parity, number two, price parity, because people are not going to be following cultivated meat products if they are not affordable, obviously. And that's really the two focuses that we work on. And we have, as I said in the introduction, very, very satisfying results with our current MVP, prototypes, products, however we want to call it.
So let's talk about that. Where are you? You say close or good, or is it identical? Is the taste magnifique? Is it perfect? Is it almost look at me trying my French words there. Is it close, or do you still have a lot of work to do? Where are you?
I wouldn't say it's perfect. Of course, we have still a lot of optimizations to go for, but I would say it's at this stage undistinguishable from conventional foie gras if you don't really know that you are eating this product. We have made multiple blind tests where our prototypes was tasted among different conventionally produced foie gras, and at this stage it still has not ranked best and number one. But no one, and it was really expert people like chefs, French chefs, for instance, who are used to working with this product. No one as of now has been able to really identify that there was some sort of a different product. They just didn't find it the best of what they had in the samples, in the tasting. But no one was like, okay, there is something wrong with this product. It was more like, this is excellent, this is very tasty, this is very good. And some people, depending on their subjectivity and taste, would rank it differently and would appreciate it differently. But I would say that we are like 90% close to the conventionally produced foie gras.
So being a typical Frenchman, you're sort of focusing in a very specific way. And what I mean by that is, I was really asking, is the taste close to foie gras? In other words, can you tell it's foie gras? And what you just answered to me is, absolutely you can tell it's foie gras, but we're focused on making it the best tasting foie gras it's possible to make compared to every single traditional foie gras in the world. Now, wasn't really what, and it's great that you aspire to be the number one best tasting foie gras in the world, traditional or cell-based. But I was just more interested in, does it taste like foie gras? It sounds like it does, yes?
Yes, it does. The short answer is yes, it does. The taste is right, the texture is right. But if I'm really demanding with the product, and so we are, I mean, the whole company, our food engineers, our food scientists are extremely demanding with the level of taste and closeness that we reach. It's because foie gras is a chef product, and our first customers and our first ambassadors are likely to be chefs and will be chefs. So we really want to have a product that chefs are really happy to work with and are really satisfied about. So we need to do that extra mile. We are not working on more simple meat products that are more conventionally sold and commercialized by alternative proteins companies. In the case of this product, it's a gastronomy product, a restaurant grade product. So we really need to be at the top level. But I think we are getting there. We are almost there yet, because we recently had tastings with chefs and they were saying, to me, this is good. I can sell that in my restaurant. I'm fine with that. So it was already a very, very nice achievement for the team, and it was very energizing. But we still have some optimization in the way it's cooked, for instance. It needs to be cooked at high temperature, for instance. It needs to be pan-fried. When chefs buy foie gras, they want to put it in a very hot pan, and the way it melts is really, really important. And it's going to be that caramelization process that makes the crustiness of the surface very unique, and that will unleash all the flavors. This is the kind of experience where we want to be at the top level. Otherwise, we were not going to have chefs on board, but we are very close to getting there.
So in terms of the people who are tasting the product in those sort of blind tests that you mentioned, are they chefs today? You're using chefs today to
yes, we are.
sort of compare and contrast? You are, okay, because I was going to say, is it somebody like me who wouldn't know the difference, or is it somebody, who really understands the grades and the distinctions and the different flavors, the complexity?
We are working with the most sophisticated palate and people of the French gastronomy world, and people that are not only French, not only used to working with foie gras, but also in the case of one of our partner chefs from the southwest region, and that's the region where foie gras has been developed and got so popular. So it's really people that knows what they're talking about and that who knows what they are tasting, who has this feedback. So yeah.
Are you looking for more chefs to get involved in France and other places to test, to
Yes.
experience, to give their feedback?
Yes, definitely. Definitely, that's something that is key for us to build on and to develop. So if there's any chef listening to us that is really interested about sustainable meat in general, and specifically how cultivated meat would provide very sophisticated delicacies like foie gras, please get in touch.
Perfect. And that would be through Gourmey, GOURMEY.com, yes?
I can give you a more direct way of contacting me, which is my email address. It's nicolas@gourmey.com, so with a Y.
And Nicholas without the H, so
Without the H. Yeah, without the H, exactly. NICOLAS @gourmey.com.
Perfect, awesome. So what about there's a couple of things running around in my head. One is price. So you mentioned taste was a key consideration. It sounds like you're getting there. It sounds like, it's comparable with a range of foie gras, and you haven't got it as the number one yet, but it's getting closer and closer. A lot of thanks to a lot of help and input from some very, very good chefs. From a cost/price perspective, are you close to being able to produce it at a cost that's somewhat comparable with traditional foie gras, or if not, when do you think you'll get there?
No, we are. It's always complicated to look at the cost of production for cultivated meat, cell-based meat, when they are still at the R&D stage, where they are not producing at full capacity, because obviously the cost of production will be dramatically different from that stage to the other. So the goal of the company and the obsession of the company is to be able to provide this product at price parity with conventional foie gras. And I think that's one of the main benefits of choosing this product as a first product, is that we are on our way to being the first company with a price competitive product right at launch, and not in 5 or 7 years. We know that most products that will be in their cultivated version might land on the market with a slight premium at first. In the case of foie gras, we want to be aligned with the conventional price point.
And you say priced competitively or at the same price point as traditional foie gras at launch. So the next obvious question is, are you launching in 2050, or are you launching, realistically speaking, when are you launching?
We want to have our first chef selling and cooking and selling the product by the end of next year or early 2023. So just to give you a range, that will be between the last months of 2022 and spring, something like that, 2023. It also depends on the regulatory approvals. I'm sure most of our listeners know that this is also a key challenge for cultivated meat. We need to get approvals in whatever geography we might be looking at. The agencies there will have to give their go. And this is why it's a bit hard to commit on a very specific, precise launch date. But we are doing our best to accelerate that and to make it happen, as I said, between the end of next year or early 2023.
Now, I originally understood or thought that from a regulatory perspective in Europe, you would need to basically get approval from the whole organization, the whole, the European Union, etc., across cell-based as a category. But it sounds like they may be prepared to tackle on a product by product basis, which could speed up the process for approval within Europe. Where is, without obviously talking about anything you're not allowed, but from a Gourmey perspective, do you think it'll be approved by, I don't know, the end of next year for sale in France and maybe in the broader Europe?
Not likely in Europe and in France, and these are actually not our target markets. We are more looking at markets where consumers are essentially forbidden to enjoy this delicacy. For instance, as I mentioned, California, that's a state in the US where we want to be launching the product. In the city of New York, you'll have hundreds and thousands of restaurants in New York that are already selling the product that will need to find an alternative because simply the product has been banned. And the ban is going to take place in 2022. So we are doing our best to kind of align these timings. Obviously, as I said, it depends on the regulatory agencies, so we cannot control the entire process. But it's believed at the moment that Europe will not necessarily be the first mover when it comes to cell-based meat regulation. And the process, which is called the novel food process, might take up from 12, 18, 24 months. Sometimes we hear more, really depending on the quality of the file of the submission, because as you said, it's going to be product by product, company per company. And every company, for every product, will have to produce an application file with a lot of data. And depending on how this file is built and depending on the pace of the agency, we should be seeing the first regulatory approvals between, as I said, 1 and 2 or 3 years. That's for the EU. Now, if we're looking at foreign markets outside of the EU for us, if we look at Singapore, if we look at the Middle East, if we look at the US, obviously, things might get faster. And this is also part of the reasons why we are focusing our efforts on these markets. In the case of Singapore, we've already been seeing an approval for cell-based nuggets. And just this week, actually, we have seen also another approval for not for a product, but for a production facility that will be able to produce cultivated meat. So things are moving very fast in Singapore. And I think it's going also to accelerate in the US. The USDA and the FDA, which are the two agencies that are working on the regulation, are making fast progress. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another product getting regulated there in the next months.
So when you talk about launching this product the end of 2022, beginning the sort of spring of 2023, you see that being predominantly in the US, in, for example, New York, and you say the city of New York, so I'll do the same thing. The city of New York and California. Is that really where you're targeting that launch right now?
Yes, exactly. Singapore and the US are definitely the two focuses of our regulatory efforts and our upscaling efforts at the moment.
Interesting. So obviously Singapore, from a regulatory perspective, when you and I first met, we sort of identified or were talking about how outside of France, the two biggest markets for foie gras, I think, were Japan and China. Are they part of the launch plan at some point in the future?
Well, actually, China is a huge growing market, but it's mostly for future products. Mm-hmm. We have a unique expertise on duck meat. We are cultivating duck cells, and actually, China is the biggest market for duck meat. So we have future plans in Asia and in China specifically, which are, yes, for foie gras, but the huge part of the business will come from duck meat products, other types of meat. For Japan, yes, we do have plans as well. I didn't mention that, but it's true. It's one of the biggest foie gras market. In the case of Singapore, it's actually the environment and the formulation, but that huge appetite for innovation that is going on in Singapore. And also French cuisine is...
Do they have the market for it, though? Do they have people at the consumer base that's looking for foie gras as part of their daily, or not daily, but their consumption patterns?
Well, obviously, foie gras is a delicacy that you don't consume at breakfast every day. It's restaurant experience. Sure. So the good news is that because of the price point, it's not a volume market. It's more of a high value market. So you don't need to sell thousands of tons of foie gras to have a sustainable business. So we are really in a different position than other companies that are looking at huge market, but are really almost commoditized, where you really need to go into the volume strategy to really have an impact and to make a sustainable business. In our case, we're not too worried about the volumes. Obviously, it does matter, of course. But in Singapore, you have a wide scene of Japanese restaurants, of French restaurants as well, that are selling this product. and it's really a great country to start and to really build also the category and the brand, because that's also what we look at before talking about volumes and the size of the market. We really want to build also the brand with chef and obviously the regulatory aspect, which will accelerate stuff.
Perfect. So when you and I first met, your company was very young. Your valuation, the value of the company was quite young as well. Over a very short period of time, probably 2 years, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not sure exactly when we first met and started working together.
Yes, 2 years.
2 years, yeah. Over that time, you've brought together a lot of interested parties in what you're doing. You've been able to grow the company very quickly. The value of the company has increased quite dramatically. What do you think's driving the level of interest in Gourmey and your mission? How are you bringing such great partners together to kind of move your business forward? What's making them most excited, do you think?
Well, I guess it's what's going on within the company. So it's really about the team and about the level of passion and the pace of our progress. I think that's what has been gaining us significant traction. When you're a young startup, it's essentially, from investors, for instance, you want to see something going on in this company. You want to see something happening. You want to sense that these people are doing something very, very interesting with a high level of passion, and that is worth their attention. And I think that's what we have been able to demonstrate, mostly by building a team of highly passionate people. And I guess most entrepreneurs will say that. But in our case, I'm always impressed by the level of commitment and the alignment that we have within the team, with people crossing from cell biology to molecular biology to food science. We have people with a business background as well. And I think the interdisciplinarity of the company and the fact that we're also a full stack company. So we are not only producing final products that will be ready to consume, but we are also building a production platform, a bio-production platform, highly scalable, with cells in duck, in chicken also. We are considering expanding into other species. I think that's really what gained us a lot of traction, and everything also kind of combined with the products that we had to taste, that we offered for tastings in the recent months, where it was actually obvious that not only you could sense a strong energy and a strong level of passion and expertise within the team, but it was also clear that we were building something that consumers may want, because it's very tasty and very good.
I couldn't agree more. I've seen you guys grow incredibly fast, incredibly quickly. The team you've put together is I would say unparalleled, but then I'm going to get every other cell-based company out there giving me a hard time. But you really have built a very, very strong company. Have there been times where it's been challenging? I'm guessing it hasn't always been. From the outside, it looks like it's always been very quick, very easy, very efficient. As an entrepreneur, have there been times when you've been sort of banging your head against a wall and wondering what's next?
Oh, yeah, for sure. From the outside, it looks like a very sharp and clear trajectory. But in fact, for all startups, it doesn't go like that. It's always ups and downs. What you just want to make happen is that when you combine all the ups and downs, it still goes up and it still goes into the right directions. But you're moving forward, moving backward, you make mistakes. So yeah, obviously, just the fact that from the outside it may look like relatively easy for us should not hide all the hurdles, all the stress, all the mistakes that we made. And we made a lot of mistakes, for instance, in terms of just building the team at first, because hiring is one of the key expertise that you don't necessarily have when you're starting a company. And this is the key area where you need to improve as quickly as possible into sensing the right people who would be the right fit for the company. What does it mean to build a culture within the company? And well, we made mistakes on the fundraising side also. For the first fundraisers, we had more than 100 no's before finding the first yeses. So that's something that usually we don't make LinkedIn posts about. I guess we should, because it's really the real life and how it goes for real behind the scenes. But yes, we struggle on many aspects. But I think the drive was so strong that for the co-founding team, as well as for the first people who joined us, the drive was so strong and the mission was so strong and the passion level was very high that we were expecting that, and we were expecting it to be difficult, to be hard. So it was just that, anyway, we know it's going to work. We just don't know when. So just keep working, just keep asking for investment at the very first days and months of the company. Although we had many people that were not really, at the time, excited about alternative proteins or cultivated meat. 2.5 years ago, it was actually even a newer field than it is today. So we also had to educate the VCs and the investors that we were talking to. So yeah, it was a difficult process overall. I would say the fundraising and the hiring were the two main challenges for us in the early days. And that doesn't mean that we have solved them. We keep making mistakes, but I think, yeah, we are getting better on these two fronts.
So I've got two very quick questions, and then I know that you've got to run to your next meeting. But first question is, for cell-based companies, what kind of resources have or companies or groups have been helpful? So for example, GFI, or what for a cell-based company, what kind of resources do you find are available for support and help? So if other entrepreneurs are looking to start a cell-based company, that's my question one. So I'll give you a moment just to think about that. My question two is, in the cell-based or cultured meat, clean meat, whatever you want to call it, space, 3-4 years ago, it was very much about companies who were creating different cell lines. So, it was about, hey, I'm going to do duck. Hey, I'm going to do chicken. Hey, I'm going to do beef. Lots of different companies, and their focus or their unique proposition was the cell line. But I'm starting to feel like in the cell-based meat space, there's a lot of companies who are focused on cell line. We're now sort of seeing more distinction and uniqueness, not around the cell line, but for example, around either the scaffold or the bioreactor or the kind of the solving the problems of the industry as opposed to just creating another cell line. So question one, what resources were helpful to you as you scaled the company, and that might be available to others? Outside of Big Idea Ventures, this is not me asking you to tell people how great we are.
I was going to talk about Big Idea.
Yeah. Okay, we're amazing. I know. But outside of Big Idea Ventures, what resources and people or teams or groups have been helpful to you?
So you mentioned the Good Food Institute. I would really encourage anyone, young scientists, students, young entrepreneurs, to kind of join this kind of network. Good Food Institute is one. We also have local cultivated meat networks in many countries. For instance, in France, we have a network called Cellular Agriculture France, and there is a website for that. There is a Slack channel where you will meet dozens of people that are really excited about the field, whether they work directly in it, whether they are companies offering openings, offering jobs for you who could really get you excited, or whether they are people from academia that are just really helping with their expertise because it's a very technical field. So I would really encourage you to look in your country if there is an equivalent of this network. There is one in Australia, there is one in Germany, there is one in the US. So I'm sure you will be able to find a network of this kind. And why not join all? Because we have 60% of the company at this stage who have joined us from foreign countries. They were not necessarily based in France. So I really encourage you to join all these kind of networks, global networks, international networks. And for the second question, which is actually what is our differentiator, or how do you see the field of cultivated meat evolve?
That's kind of more of a question in terms of when you and I first started getting more and more involved, and you were doing it, I was investing in it. A lot of the companies were exciting because they were doing new cell lines. Now we're seeing a lot of companies doing new cell lines. It's very difficult to distinguish between the good and the not so good companies, apart from spending a lot of time with the team. I guess I'm asking, where are you seeing innovation going in cell-based or in clean meat? Where are the boundaries or the kind of, the areas of innovation now in cell-based? It's not just more cell lines. Where are you seeing the progress? Where are you seeing the edges of innovation as cell-based, given that you live this every single day of your life now?
Sure. So first, I think it's still really important to have a lot of efforts on the cell lines, because it's not only about choosing a species, like I'm going to work on poultry, I'm going to work on beef, but really having the best cell line, it's really what is going to make a tremendous difference in the cost of production. You're going to have companies with better cell lines than others, and this will allow them to be at price parity easier than other companies. So I think it's still a huge part of the important assets for any cell-based meat company. And in our case, we have an amazing team working on developing the best cell lines and the most efficient cell lines who can grow very fast, who can grow in the most simplistic media formulation, for instance, and all that will still have a tremendous impact for the consumers, notably on the price point. Now, it's true that it's not only limited to that, and I think we now have enough companies that are purely focusing on these animals or these species. And it's a bit hard for now in 2021 to start a new company saying, okay, I'm going to be a full stack cultivated beef company. I think you will need to find an angle in the technology, in the whole supply chain that is white space and that is not addressed enough by companies. And you can think of growth factors, for instance, which are very expensive proteins that most cell-based meat companies will need. You can think of bioreactor design. It's still a pretty much open question how we are going to reach the hundreds and thousands of tons of biomass produced. I think we now all know how to make a few kilos, potentially a few tons, but how are we going to reach that next level of really taking 20%, 30% market shares in a huge market that is meat? And we're talking actually not only in hundreds and thousands of tons, but in hundreds of millions of tons. And how we are going to reach that scale, that will really depend on the technology in terms of bioreactor that we are going to use. And also a third pillar that is really important and where we also have a very, very strong expertise and an amazing team is the product development and the food formulation. Because I think at first, the narrative of cultivated meat might have been a bit simplistic. It was essentially like, okay, we are going to harvest a ready-to-consume piece of meat out of the bioreactor and just put it in the plate, and it's going to be a beef steak or a chicken breast. Sure. In fact, it's a bit more complex than this, and to some extent, it's comparable to plant-based meat. We are essentially recreating the structure of the product, improving the flavor profile, and all of this will really make a tremendous difference between companies that are very good at producing sales, but not necessarily good at making delicious products, and companies that can also make delicious products. And we might be also seeing companies that are only focusing on making delicious products using real animal cells without necessarily producing the cells and having the production platform. So I think this is also a white space in the field. At the moment, it's a bit hard to start a company with this approach because it's hard to source the cells. So if you want to be a product development company, a product formulation company, and you don't have access to cells, it's going to be a problem for you. But I think in the next years, we are going to be able to source cells from B2B companies that are just going to be selling cells. And you will be able to launch a company focused on recreating a new delicacy using cells. And your expertise will really be on the food science, on the product development. And in our case, we have internalized that. And we have built from the very early days a very strong team, as I mentioned, of food scientists, of food engineers that are kind of bridging the gap between conventionally produced meat and cultivated meat, because it's a bit too simplistic to say that it's going to be perfectly identical right from the beginning. You're going to need to dig at the molecular level. What is going on? For instance, if you look at foie gras, there is this force feeding period. What is going on at the molecular level during force feeding that makes the flavor so complex, the texture so refined, so sophisticated? This is the kind of knowledge that you have to build. And we have many exciting openings in these areas that are going to be open in the next few months for food scientists, for food engineers. That's one of the aspects. And also, again, coming back to the cell line and to the molecular biology team, to the cell biology team, it's critical also to obviously not neglect that part and to really be able to build the most efficient cell lines and the most efficient production process and scaling trajectory, essentially.
Understood. I think you're right. I think it makes it difficult for the investor though, because truly understanding the distinctions and the value add between the different companies creating different cell lines is becoming more and more complex. But I guess that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also a part of understanding what are the right metrics to assess the cell lines, for instance. It's really like an animal species that will grow faster or slower than another one. In the case of cell lines, you can really assess, okay, how much medium do this cell line need? How fast is the doubling time of the cells, because the cells grow by essentially dividing themselves. So how fast does it go in the case of your cell line? So I think investors are more and more aware of the metrics to look at, and it will also help the entire ecosystem to essentially align on what would be the right technology choices and who are the most promising companies. And in our case, we're really fully focused on having the best cell lines, which still remain a very key asset.
Perfect. So I'm going to cut it short in a few minutes because you told me that you had a number of things you had to do. Are there any shout outs to any companies that you're working with that have been helpful? Any potential like company partners that you've worked with that you think deserve a mention? And then let's go into, if there is anyone that's listening that can be helpful to you in some way, what kind of help does Gourmey with a Y need right now? Is it more chefs? Is it more investors? Is it more potential recruits to join the team? Is it consumers that want to try the product? How can people be helpful to you? And again, where can people reach out and talk to you about these things?
Sure. So the shout out will be both a personal shout out and as well as a gourmet shout out. I will be naming the company called Finless Foods. Finless Foods is a company based in California. They're working on cultivated bluefin tuna, and they're one of the pioneers in the field. They're a company that we're quite close with. And my personal mentor is Michael Selden, the co-founder and CEO of these companies. He's been one of our earliest supports. And I would encourage any young entrepreneur starting their own company to kind of find this kind of mentor from someone who has been in your shoes just a few months ahead of you. And this is the kind of expertise, of advice that will bring the most value to you, because not only they have done what you are about to do, but they have done these mistakes and they are slightly more advanced to you. So Finless Foods was, for instance, started 1 or 2 years ago, 2 years before Gourmey, and it was essentially the perfect match. And it's really a strong testimony also for the strong support within the cultivated meat ecosystem. When you find these companies that are also so mission driven, so passionate, and these entrepreneur teams that are really here to make an impact, the communication is really direct and really easy, and they offer help very, very easily. So shout out to Finless Foods and Michael for their help since the very early days of Gourmey. And the second essentially call for support would be, yes, as I said, any chefs willing to try our product, to play with our product, to potentially partner during our launch are welcome to contact me at nicholas@gourmey.com. Number 2, investors, we are going to start raising our next round of funding around the end of this year. So if you are really interested in cultivated meat and you want to learn more about Gourmey, I'm happy to schedule first calls with you. And number 3, obviously, we are still looking for amazing people to complement the team and join the team. We have a dedicated website called join.gourmey.com, again, still with a Y. We have openings in regulatory, we have openings in cell biology, in molecular biology. We'll soon have more in food science. So anyway, if you're just passionate about the field and you don't fit to a specific box, we also have an open application, and we always take time to review them all. I'm regularly having calls with people that don't necessarily directly fit with a specific position, but just to build this network and to kind of nurture all the energy of people that want to join this field and this ecosystem, which is super energizing to see, because every week there are more people that are aware of the field of alt proteins and cultivated meat in specific, and that want to give their expertise and to contribute to that. So join.gourmet.com.
Perfect. And gourmet.com for more general reach outs, whether it's investors. LinkedIn, I'm guessing you're available on that. If anyone is interested in Gourmet, either from an investment perspective or whatever, Big Idea Ventures invested, so you can always reach out to me through LinkedIn, and I'll make sure to connect you with Nicholas. A big shout out to Michael Selden for being a great mentor to Nicholas. It'd be great to get him or Brian on, or even Shannon on the call. And then I'm going to get Brandon getting pissed off with me for not mentioning him. So either Michael, Brian, Shannon, or Brandon would be great to have them on the podcast at some point as well. Nicholas, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being probably about 30 minutes over what you told me you had. And thanks
you for having us.
Of course.
Yeah, and thanks for all the support the BIV team has been providing for the past 2 years. That's really a game changing for us.
I told you not to say that. Okay, I'm going to press pause and then I'm going to come back and thank you. One moment. Let me see.
Hi. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Nicholas from Gourmet. If you want to reach out to Nicholas, you can get hold of him at gourmet.com, spelt GOURMEY.com. A really interesting company focused on cell-based foie gras based in France. So any questions, any comments, please do post them. We really do want to engage with you. And by all means, subscribe so that you can get notified of next week's podcast, so you can listen to the next interesting conversation on the future of food with another founder. So look forward to next week's conversation and hope you can listen to that one too.